Welcome to Pinball Mayhem. My name's Jeremy Ajma, and today we're going to take a look at a issue that Bride of Pinbot has, and that's a weak right-hand flipper. Actually, both are really weak, but when the right-hand flipper is weak, it really affects the game because you cannot get it up the ramp. So I'm just going to swing around the camera, we'll take a look at the situation, and see what we can do to fix it. Here's my Bride of Pinbot. I've got a couple other videos as of this point of fixing the cabinet and also assembling the machine from where it's completely apart, playfield out, head off, all that kind of fun stuff. But in playing the game, it's been pretty obvious, especially if you watch some of my live streams, that this flipper is definitely weak over here and has a little trouble getting up the ramp reliably. And if we take a nice close look here, we have definitely got some flipper wear in the bushing, and the other one's just the same. Now, I rebuilt these back in 2013. This is when I last had this machine at my house. I rebuilt it for a previous owner, and he enjoyed the machine, and it's been through a few owners since, but based on what I can see, not much else has been done to the game. It doesn't have a ton of plays on it after that, but it's been quite a few years. So let's lift up the playfield here. All right, we'll shut off the main power. And we'll take a look at the issue here. Here's the right-hand flipper. And if we look real carefully right up in here, when I actuate it, you can see that there's wear up here and down here in this link. There we go. You can kind of see it moving around a bit. So every little bit of play that's here and in the coil sleeve and the coil stop all adds up. Everything adds up together. And then you can really see it over here. See this whole thing just wobbling around. So what I'm going to do is we'll take the coil stop off. We'll inspect that. We'll remove the coil. We'll take a look at the sleeve. We're going to replace the sleeve no matter what. They're super cheap. I've got some of these plunger link assemblies in here. And we'll unbolt it from here. We'll pull this out, and we'll also change the bushing. And that'll help quite a bit. I don't have a full flipper rebuild kit because I've kind of got all the parts right here. Alright, so I've been in the hobby for several years, and I don't rebuild as many machines as I used to, but I did build up quite a few spare parts. And we've got bushings over here and all kinds of stuff. Well, I've already selected some things out of my kit here. Here's the stuff. So we got the correct bushings for it, which now they're kind of falling all over the place, but that's okay. Got the correct bushings. I do have some nice quality coil stops. I've got some new ones, but these are barely used, so I might use these. It's always good to keep some of the stuff around, especially for your own machines. I'm probably going to reprofile the end of stroke switches because they're not that bad, but I could replace them here. And here's the other coil stops and whatnot. But yeah, here's some flipper links I can use. I'll check the length and make sure they'll work. But yeah, we should be in good business. And of course, coil sleeves. Got lots of coil sleeves. A little down on my flipper coil sleeves, but hey, I don't go through them that much anymore, so it shouldn't be a problem. What we're going to start by doing is pulling the coil stop off. Just a couple of screws there, and we'll be right back with you. We've loosened up the screws here. Another good tip is when you assemble these, put some blue Loctite on here. You don't want anything stronger because you want to be able to get it off later. Okay. This stuff is just going to kind of fall out. The wires will keep things in touch. Alright, that coil sleeve still looks pretty good. It's not really mushroomed out. It's not super hammered. We might reuse it. They can be a lot worse. Okay, let's pull this coil off of here. coil is a little worse for wear. We got some breakage here, but that's actually okay. There's as long as it's together and electrically working, it should be fine. Let's pull the coil sleeve out of here. Unless it's been overheated, and we'll have a problem. Oh, not bad. It's a little snug fit, but it's not terrible. If I can pull it out by one hand, it's a pretty good deal. Alright, we will definitely be changing that guy out. Okay, the wires are on there good because I did a good job when I put her originally together. Okay, we got a little bit of mushrooming here. We'll definitely be replacing this, but again, it's not super duper hammered, so we might very well reuse that coil stop. And then we got to get everything else out of here. Probably loosen that bolt up, pull this out. We'll need to just got a bolt and nut right in here, so we can pull this out. We're going to reuse this assembly here. Probably not going to remove this plate. It's in there good. I don't want to stress out those Phillips head screws, so let's pull some more stuff apart. Here we are. I loosened up the bolt here, and the flipper came right out. Why did it come right out? Because I didn't put it in like a gorilla when I initially installed it. So here's the flipper bat. Looks good. It's not cracked. We're going to be reusing it. The shaft isn't all bunged up and everything, so it'll be fine for reuse. And yes, I could change this over to the other side, other spring style, where it's got a spring that goes over on the one side, but it's okay. This is in home use, not that big a deal. This guy just lifts out of here like that, and now we can really see all the extra play that's in here. It's just really kind of crazy. So we got wear up on top, wear on the bottom, so yeah, we're going to change out this link assembly, and while it is mushroomed a bit, it's really not that bad. So we're just going to unbolt this and swap it out with that other one if the plunger length is the same. Now here is the kicker. There are screws here, but you will not be able to get these out because it's a screw and a nut. So we're going to have to pull this plate off because there are nuts behind here. And that's to make sure that this thing doesn't fall off. So let's put this back in here like this just for fun. Yeah, you can see all that play that's in there. So we're going to pop this plate off. We'll just leave the capacitor zip tied here. We're going to pop the plate off. I'll inspect these a little bit. They should still be good. They're not super toasted. So pop the plate off. I'll show you the back side of it, and we'll swap out that bushing. Alright, here we go. Got all the screws pulled out, and as a note, some of these were loose. They weren't falling out, but they were pretty loose. So just as a flipper checkup, what I like to do is like to tighten everything, but since we're pulling it apart, there was no use in doing that. Okay, as we turn it around, there you go. There is the nuts that are on there that are holding things together. And they probably got a little blue Loctite as well. That's a good thing to do. There's no lock washers under these. But you got to remove the nuts first, then the screws, then it should come out. We'll change this out. I'll toss it back together and we'll see how she works. Getting ready to install the nuts here. I got the new bushing installed, flipper bushing. And this is one of the type of Loctites I have. I generally only have the blue stuff, medium strength. This is just a quick stick, just something I happen to grab. The little small bottles with the blue liquid in them, that's fine too. But with this quick stick, you just kind of rub it up against each bolt here till a little bit gets on that bolt. There we go. Yeah, there's a little bit on each one. And just put the nut on, tighten it up, and then you're good to go. Now, here's another interesting thing. This plate is threaded, so the screws are threaded into the plate, and the nuts lock everything together. It's a pretty cool system. It works really good. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'll put these on, and then we'll put the plate back on, and then we'll show you the next step. Here we are at the table, and I pulled out the bolt. And as you can see here, there is a ton of slop in here. It's just really just loosey-goosey hanging out in here. And because this really isn't worn at all, it's not mushroomed at all, just some of the chrome starting to come off the bottom, I'm not going to change this bit. I don't know where I bought them, But I got some replacement ends here like this. I'm just going to change it out. Let me grab one. Okay, here's the replacement end that I just happen to have, and this one even has a Williams logo. I don't know where I bought this, but I'm going to use these things up. And if we put the bushing in here, it's a much tighter fit. It is still loose because it's got a pivot, but it is nowhere near as loose. So I'm going to knock this roll pin out, swap it around, and every little thing I do, even if nothing's seriously worn, every little bit of play that I take out just magnifies itself, so it'll be so much better. Okay, we'll swap these out, reassemble it, see where we get. Got things roughly assembled here. There's a keynote that's very important. When you push the flipper in from the other side, you need to have a small amount of space. Marco sells a tool that's a reproduction of the Williams tool that's meant to space the flipper out. But mainly, if you get it right, there should be a little bit of up and down play. Like right now, I got it a little bit tight. We'll just move the flipper on the other side here. Yeah, there you go. So we just want a little bit of up and down play. Now there's still some play in this bushing, and like I said, these flippers weren't horrible, but this game really has to have a strong right-hand flipper to get it up that ramp, depending on how steep you set the game. And like I said, every little bit of play that I take out is just going to make this game so much nicer to play. And worst comes to worst, we'll change out the coil, but that'll be the last thing we do. I'm going to align the flippers here and make sure we just keep a tiny bit of up and down gap here to where this, just up and down on this bushing here, because we don't want it binding. So we'll reassemble things and see how she goes. I just came to an important realization. This game has had the wrong right-hand flipper coil on it since at least when I worked on it back in 2012. This is an FL11722. And the only reason I started looking to see if I had a coil was when I put the coil sleeve in, I couldn't get it in very far. And I was like, oh, that's a little weird. And so I start looking, and let me look in the book, in the parts book. And it's supposed to have one of these, an FL11630, which is physically larger. And if you take a look at this coil, and you compare it with this coil is larger. And on Marco's website, they say, yes, so you're supposed to use the FL11630 on this game, unless you need to adjust flipper coil strength. And then if you've got a flipper that's close to a drop target, use the FL11722. So this game has been crippled for a long time. And I can only imagine how much better it's going to play once I get this working. So basically, this flipper has just been barely good enough to work with solid components. And if you jack up the back too much, then it has trouble. And certainly because that was several years ago, I really didn't understand that and didn't bother checking it. I just looked at my photos, and I've got a close-up photo showing here of this exact coil still in this machine. So this coil, while it's old, it's an original Williams. It's still in good condition. It hasn't been overheated. There's nothing physically wrong with it. So we're going to swap it out and put an original style coil back in here. So while, yeah, I'm taking a few extra minutes, I'm happy because I don't have to wait to get a coil coming or borrow one off one of my friends. But this is really great news. Technically, I suppose I could probably swap this coil for that one and move this one over here, and the game would probably still play fine. There's no ramp on that this flipper has to hit. You probably wouldn't even notice it, but I am really curious how much different this is going to play. This is a huge discovery, so stay tuned. Alright, got the replacement coil in here, and this coil is the correct one, just kind of buried underneath, sort of in this area where you can't quite read it unless you get your head just right. It does say the FL11630, which is also what the manual says this is supposed to have on both flipper coils. So I'm going to transfer over the wires and we'll give it a test. And another thing I wanted to say is these screws here that hold the flipper stop in, the coil stop I mean, very important you put some Loctite on here and have lock washers, otherwise they will work their way out. Home use it won't be too bad, but it really helps to have that Loctite in there. Alright, let me get soldered and we'll get this thing straightened out. The coil is in, the solder job is absolutely horrible, but the connections are what's important, it's strong. If I was to make this look pretty, I'd chop these wires and then I'd replace these. I'm kind of running out of time tonight, so I'm not going to do that right now because these are a little on the short side. I should have made them a little longer way back when, but hey, that was back in 2013. So let's lower the playfield and see how she plays. Much stronger. I like it. Really good.
I can speak.
Well, there you have it. Found out the real reason why that right flipper was so weak. It was the wrong coil. Urgh. Frustrating. But, you know, hey, that was way back when I looked at this and it really wasn't, you know, I didn't know. I didn't pay attention to it. I don't blame myself, but, you know, hey, at least we figured it out now, and that is the main thing. And it just happenstance. The only reason I looked at it was because the old coil had shrunk a bit from overheating, and yeah, the coil sleeve wouldn't fit in too good. So I started looking, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, these are different. So there you go. Observation is key. But hey, we're going to try it out, see how it works. I'll probably end up just buying 2 new coils for it. That way I know that they're good for the long term. Because this thing has been, considering the hardware, unauthorized pinball hardware I found, like wood screws, you know, drywall screws and stuff in it when I first took it apart in 2013. This thing's been used quite a bit. So, hey, things like this are bound to show up. But it's okay. As long as we figured it out now and it's good to go, I will be much happier and should be doing better on playing this game. Thank you very much for watching, and tune in for the next one.